Hello, my beautiful, gorgeous dance baby, and welcome to another episode of More Than Dance. Today, we are discussing the 4 things that every dancer should do. And the way that I created this is basically just from years and years of teaching and understanding what my dancers need on a consecutive basis. So I'm going to overview the first 4 steps, and then we're going to dive into each of them individually. So step 1 is to create an intention, something that you can refer to throughout the entirety of the class. Step 2 is coming up with 3 different times where you can check in with yourself. Step 3 is monitoring your hard volume, and we'll talk about that. Step 4 is reflect and win. So let's go into what it looks like to create an intention for a dance class. And this is something that every dancer can do, whether you're a pro dancer or whether you're a beginner dancer or whether you're doing dance for fun, doing it professionally. When you're taking class, you want to always be mindful of your intention. The intention is like, why did you come to class today? What do you want to get out of class today? What do you want to focus on? What do you want to improve? Where do you want your headspace to be? So there's a few different classes that I take. And if you're a teacher, you know that it is hard sometimes to find time to take a class because you're usually teaching class at the times that people are taking class. So I have this amazing ballet teacher in New York City, and we have lessons from time to time. And then there's also some experience where I either go to LA and I'll take some classes, or I'll go to New York City and I'll take some classes. And my intention for all of those classes are very different. So for instance, in my ballet class, I'm thinking specifically of anatomy and muscle alignment. I'm thinking of technique and trying to make sure I understand from a standpoint of, do I understand it enough to talk about it? And if you've ever watched Grey's Anatomy or have any doctors in your family, you'll know that the phrase is watch one, do one, teach one. And it's just a way to understand if you know something. And when I'm in ballet, I really want to know. And I think it's because I didn't grow up taking ballet. So I want to understand it from a very, very deep level. And I actually have just the most perfect instructor for that because she's just so good at dancing and she's so good at teaching. And that's actually the best combination, when you can find someone that actually knows how to do what you're learning how to do and they know how to teach it really well. Best combo. So when I'm in New York City, I'm usually thinking, okay, you're not here for a long time. Make the most of it. Your intention is to have fun, learn what you can. If I'm taking a jazz class, I'm thinking about the classes that I take when I go there. And there's one hip hop jazz funk class that I take. And every time I'm in that class, I'm it's purely fun. I'm not thinking about technique. I'm not thinking about being exact. I'm not thinking about being just like the choreographer. I'm thinking just embrace and have fun. And honestly, a touch of nostalgia comes to me when I take that class because it reminds me of my youth when I used to travel to Martha's Vineyard to take dance with an instructor that was there. And he was such a special instructor. He was just so good with teens and kids and relaying the message of musicality. He was just such a good instructor. And so when I take this class that I take now, once a year in New York City, I'm brought back to those feelings. So I guess you could say another intention is to embrace that. Another intention that I have when I'm taking a jazz class there or a musical theater class is to see it from a teacher perspective. So while I'm taking the class as a dancer, I'm thinking about it as a teacher. And I'm just noticing just little things that the teacher will do or say, and whether I would do those things or not. I kind of just have this dialogue and this self-analyzation while I'm doing that. And then when I'm in LA, there's a class that I love that's actually very similar to the one I was just talking about, the hip hop jazz funk one. And same vibe for that one. I'm just there to have fun and feel nostalgia. And then there's the other classes that I take. And my intention with those, kind of interesting because the last time I took those classes was before my most recent knee surgery. So my intention was always do what you can to modify and also to have fun. And I know a few people there, so I had a social intention as well. So when you're creating an intention before you go into class, you're instantly able to address your intention throughout the class. So what I notice happening when I'm teaching is my students will come in, we'll have our first circle time, we'll talk about our intentions, and then throughout the class, we're on the dance roller coaster and we're going up and down. The dance roller coaster is simply this, like everyone comes in super excited and then they realize how hard things are, so they go down and then they have a little lift off again because we went over something and they understand something, so they have like an aha moment, and then like kind of like just like center off, and maybe they go down, maybe they go up, it just depends on the class. And what I notice after years and years of teaching is that there's this look and it's on their face and it's cloudy and it's just so cute because now obviously like I know my students very well. So each one of them will do certain things. Like one of them, like if you're watching, they'll kind of go like this. They'll like nod and they'll like maybe blink like 3 times and they'll turn to the left and face back. Another one will go and she'll kind of be like, she'll make that face. Another one will go like this. She'll just have like a complete blank face. And then another one will be like, okay, like, okay. And it's just like really funny to think about like what they're potentially thinking inside their heads. So it's usually when I start to see those signs that I'm like, recentering. Can we go back to our intention? Because what happens in those moments is my dancers are all of a sudden like collectors, and they're collectors of other people's intentions in that moment. They're like, oh, I knew my intention today was to think about having fun, but actually I'm going to change it because that looks really cool and I want to do that. And oh, I want to work on facials and cool, I'm going to bring that in. And oh, also like I just realized that that's a move I want to work on, and like now that's my goal. The rule is what your intention is before class is your intention during class. And be very, very critical if you're going to change it, because it's very easy to just decide to change it. It's kind of like when you set out to do something and then you're like realizing how hard it is, you'll be like, I'm going to change it. I'm not going to do that anymore because it got hard, because it got difficult. Now, this is the exact opposite. My dancers are like, it's not hard enough. Let me make it harder for myself. So creating your intention, it's going to be something that you are either working on and it's a consistent intention. The intention of having fun is a beautiful intention. I love when people have that one, and I think it's harder than it sounds sometimes. And there's other ones like embracing musicality. I want to work on my facials. I want to be precise. I want to clean up my lines. There's intentions like that. And then there's the intention of, here I am, like I came to class today. And you're going to be the one that knows where you are that day, as long as you're being aware and being a reflective person and knowing what you need. So we try not to collect too many other intentions once we've already started the class. And this brings me to step 2, which is to create check-ins with yourself during class. So a great time to check in with yourself is when the first confusing or hard moment happens. And it's really just a check-in to be like, hey, what was confusing there? And if you go back to a couple episodes before, we have a beautiful episode on how to ask really great questions as a dancer. And it really asks you to step up to the plate to understand how to ask a really good question, because a really good question is going to come right from a point of confusion. And remember, we talked about, we don't, as dancers, say, I'm confused. We say instead, I'm having trouble with the transition from this to this. Or I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be facing during there and it's messing up my next move. Or I'm not looking exactly like you are and I don't know how to fix that. Can you help me with my alignment? So a check-in for a question, a check-in for a moment where you first started to feel confused, and then moments like that throughout the class. And you might not know exactly how to plan those out until they're happening, but it's mostly a check-in to stay on your intention and stay on your goal and to know when to ask an important question. Some other check-ins that can be really helpful are before the class. If you just want to, like, in addition to your intention, just think like, am I bringing any energy in here that I don't want with me? And then in the middle of class, if you're thinking like, is anything shifting? Has anything evolved since starting the class? understanding like if you feel lighter, if you feel better, like, and then leaning into that energy. Something that I also want to say about questions is there'll be moments in the classes that I just mentioned to you that I take that I'll be either unable to execute a move because it's technically harder than my ability, or because I'm unable to do it because of my injury, or just like a spacing thing. And my go-to for that is to, one, like offer myself solutions. So if it is like a modification, I'll find a different route. And then two, I recognize the length it would take to learn a skill. So for instance, like sometimes we'll be turning like 4 turns or, 3 turns into something. And because I'm still working on my turns, I might allow myself to do 1 turn or no turn. In fact, the last time I was there, I was like kind of struggling with my shoes because I brought heels and I didn't have the lower heels with me. And the routine really needed lower heels. Like, it was very difficult choreography for like the shoes that I wear during heels class. However, if I did it barefoot, then I feel like I would be missing. So I made the executive decision to, okay, just wear the heels, and then also you get to modify, you get to change some things. And I was still able to keep my intention of having fun and also not beat myself up, because I had that check-in moment with myself. And I was like, okay, you're going to do this. You're going to stay on target for your goal, your intention. And there you go. That's your solution. And once the solution comes to you, you get to just release it and move forward. So the next step is step 3. It's to monitor your hard volume. Now, I noticed this the most in my intro class of all classes. So throughout the week, I have 2 levels. I have a strut intro and a strut beginner. Beginner is kind of like an open level. And quite honestly, depending on the class, it could be strut advanced. It just depends on who's in my class that night. And something to be said about that in the way that I teach is there's a way to make yourself your own level. Like, for instance, once you know all the basics and you know a lot of things, you can alter your level when you're in your class. So that story that I just told you about me not doing all of the turns and like modifying a movement because of my heels, I was in an advanced musical theater class, and I made that class for me intermediate because I changed things for my body. And what a great skill to be able to alter a level. I mean, excuse me, like, hi, did we just write a syllabus? So it's so exciting to know that this is something that can be also learned for my students. So when they're in a class and they're feeling like something's difficult, something's hard, they can turn their hard volume down. When they're feeling like, ooh, I want to like jazz this up and I want to like make this like more difficult, they can turn their hard volume up. And usually, yes, it's going to be dependent on your instructor. And there's going to be moments where hopefully your instructor is doing something that I like to do, which is I like to give my students options. Like, hey, if you're feeling really blank today, try this. And if you feel like you want to take care of your body a little bit more today, try this. And in one instance, I'm giving my students 3 different levels to choose from. And then they get to be the ones that turn it up to make it harder or turn it down to make it easier. And I was bringing up my intro class for this reason, because when you go into my intro class, yes, it's intro. And when we think intro, we think easier. And in a weird way, intro could be harder. And it's because things are so basic that they're so specific. So for instance, in strut beginner, if we're standing, I'm like, okay, stand here and walk here. In intro, because I'm teaching fundamentals and foundations and weight transfers and the ability to walk, to strut properly, I'm teaching exactness. So I'm teaching, you're going to turn your foot out this way and you're going to step and put the pressure on this way. And when you do that, your hip is going to go over to this side. So one tiny move has maybe 17 things to think about. Versus in strut beginner, we have this mentality of getting the fuck there, which you've heard about. And when we have that mentality, it's not as exact. However, I just remember this one instance in my life. One of my friends plays the drums, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, just teach me. And what he could have done was say, okay, like, press this 3 times, make your bass beat. I don't know really what it was, but make this go like this on like the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4, and then make this one go on the 2 and the 4, and then this one's gonna hit like every 8th count, let's just say. Instead, the first thing he taught me was how to properly hold the drumsticks. And I remember it feeling so awkward and so weird and uncomfortable because I was sitting there like, I just want to bang bang and like have some fun and like make a little rhythm and then like get off the stool and like go do something else. But he found it so important to teach me how to hold it because everything is easier once you know the harder thing. So when someone comes to the studio for the first time, I get to tell them like, hey, it's going to feel kind of hard for a little while. And I just want you to know that that means great things. And if you can get through this like little hard moment, it's going to make it easier. So in other words, with the drumsticks, if I could get over the discomfort of holding them, everything else I was going to do if I chose to continue drumming was going to be easier because I was never going to have to relearn something or break a habit of something and unlearn something. So in the case of strut intro, we're drilling these very specific things that are tricky and hard. And once they get them, though, the way that they're going to go into strut beginner or any other classes at the studio is going to be with ease because they're going to be able to reference everything that they learned as a fundamental. And also when you're doing things from a fundamental standpoint, you're thinking in ways of also preserving your body. So naturally, the anatomy is better. And I had this other comparison when I was teaching this the other day, that there are just different things that you do when you are learning, because sometimes when you're learning, you just throw yourself in and you fine tune later. So when you have an opportunity, and I'm giving you permission right now, you can turn your hard volume down. So yes, we're talking about the leg and the placement of it and the weight of it and where your hip should be. And then also you can be like, ooh, how do I make that easier? Maybe I just focus on my feet and not my hip and not the weight transfer. Well, maybe I just focus on keeping my eyes up and not on the floor. That's an example of turning your hard volume down. Another really great question to ask yourself when you're thinking about your hard volume is, am I pushing hard because I'm on the brink of a breakthrough? Or am I pushing hard because I'm fighting against myself? And when you can decipher those two things, you're able to understand like, okay, well, this is hard right now and it needs to be. Or this is hard right now, lay off. And this brings me also to our conversation about dancing in the offense, dancing in the defense, is you get that opportunity to be like, should I dance in the offense right now? I'm kind of feeling good. Should I dance in the defense right now? Like I'm overanalyzing things, like my anxiety is spiking up and like I need a little bit of break. That's what you're going to find out in step 2 when you check in with yourself. And then just one last thing on your hard volume, altering your difficulty level, turning your hard volume down doesn't make you any less of a dancer. It actually makes you a wiser dancer. So now the 4th step is to reflect and win. I mean, who doesn't love winning? So we think about this, we talked about this, about creating a win for yourself. What was a win? What is that? A win is something where you're like, wow, I did that. Wow, that was hard and I moved through it. Wow, I showed up for myself today when this happened. Wow, that move got me and I got through it. Or wow, I started to feel XYZ and I turned my hard volume down and now I felt better and I was able to stay more on track with my intention. Those are great wins. And this is something that I've implemented in the studio. It's always to end class with a highlight and a win. So that reflection moment is also built in so you can say like, wow, what really stood out? What was an aha moment? What did I really understand today? What am I taking home? What is something that I'm going to incorporate into my dance practice now? Or what was that thing that she said that now makes something click forever now? Like I'll never forget that. Or that was the best analogy and now it just makes sense. Like that's an aha moment. That's like what you would want to take home, take with you for the next classes. And when you're celebrating your wins and when you're honoring your highlights, you get to end class in the feeling of success versus the opposite of that, which is, I'm a mess up, like I didn't do well, I could have done better. It's allowing you to reframe your brain reframe your mind to honor what you did, to honor the fact that you're doing something that is difficult and you're honestly killing it because you're showing up and you're being consistent and you're playing the long game. A success isn't always external. It can be internal, energetic, emotional, and it can be related to your intention, or it could also be related to your next class's intention. So sometimes that's another great way to consider and understand your goals is with that reflection and that win after class. It could be like, I want to do more of that. And that's your next intention for the next class that you take. So in summary, these 4 steps are things that dancers should do if they really want to grow and have successful classes. Step 1, create your intention. Step 2, create your moments of check-in. Step 3, honor your hard volume. Turn it up, turn it down as needed. And step 4, reflect and win. I hope you found this helpful and that you're able to implement it into your next class. And as always, I want to hear about it. So don't be afraid to message me and tell me what you liked about this episode. I would absolutely love to ask you for a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the dance floor.